That makes sense. Yeah.
This meeting is being recorded.
Excellent. Hey, I'm Swami G here with the Terasem Movement Transreligion. This is the inspirant video of Matty Roy. And I'm going to let Matty introduce himself here a little bit more. Tell us about who you are, where you are, and how you came across Terasem.
So I'm located in Montreal, but I'm going to be traveling around. And my path towards discovering Terasem was like, I would say going back to 2014, I discovered Strong. Then I discovered Cryonics through that. And then I was exposed to some people recording their lives outside of Terasem. And in 2018, I went to a Cryonics conference in Florida for the Teens and 20s Cryonics gathering. And then I did a road trip with two people I met there to visit the US, but especially Cryonics labs. And one person in the road trip knew about Terasem, so they talked to me about it. Maybe I heard about it before, I'm not sure. And it was always in the back of my mind that Terasem existed, and I wasn't sure if you were still active. I'm like, oh, maybe they're not active. And then at some point, I started my own life logging community, kind of, and I was like, oh, I really want to meet more people that are into that, and also like there's some religious aspect that I like. So I was like, oh yeah, I should definitely reach out to them. And
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I'm pretty familiar with the Young Cryonicist meet that they do. I've actually never been to it myself. My colleague Lori would generally attend those cryonic meetings, but as that she is no longer working with Terasem, actually thanks for reminding me. I should maybe pick up where she left off in being the attendee for those cryonic meetings. And
yeah,
excellent.
let me know if you want me to put you in touch with the organizer or anything like this.
Yeah. I think I know who is the organizer there, but yeah, we'll definitely circle back around and do that, because for a long time Lori had gone to that, but now she actually just recently left, and so I think that there's certainly that leaves a hole in our kind of attendance there. Excellent. Yeah. So again, it was really, cryonics and an interest in this, and then you came across, Terasem. And I recall now, I think that was, we weren't available at that time, and unfortunately missed you. But more recently, I think you had come back around and expressed some interest around, community of life loggers. Can you tell a little bit more about the community that you've developed?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, and by the way, I did not give you any heads up. Like, I did not expect you to be there if I just showed up. Yeah, and yeah, I've always been interested in not dying, and I gradually started thinking about life logging. At first, it was when I started life logging, my probability that it was going to be relevant was probably very low. Now it's just I would say low-ish, medium low maybe. I feel like it's going to be relevant in some ways with high-ish probability. I would say I knew two people doing that in Russia that were cryonicists in Russia, and they were doing logging specifically as a life extension strategy. And in 2018, during my trip, I also met someone doing life logging for mostly other reasons. That was the first person I met, video recording their life. And shortly after that, I started audio recording my life, and then eventually video recording my life. And I wanted to meet more people doing that. So I started I wrote the guide. One of my friend that I was talking a lot with about this, who's also started recording their own live, wrote a pitch for doing live logging as life extension. That's how we call it. Like other people have given it other names, but and we started a Facebook group and started connect. It's an online community. Started connecting like people that are at various stage of being interested in this practice. Yeah, the Facebook group is Life Logging as Life Extension, and we also have a meme group that's pretty funny, I think, called Life Logging Memes for like Life Extension Teens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I would like for you to share, particularly that some of those memes. You're certainly welcome to share those in the monthly gathering.
Cool.
Yeah. Normally we share if sometimes someone's playing some music or something as we come in. We ask for kind of art sharing and things like that. That I think that would actually be great addition to each month, kind of select the highlight of something that you've seen and bring it to share with the group for the gathering. Wonderful contributions. Likewise, I mean, that type of content, those connections are really exactly the stuff that we're looking for in the Terasem Discord as well. We had spoken about that. I think I shared that link to you very early. A few of us there. It's not really reaching a critical point of interactivity yet, but this is the stuff. This is why we call things like this inspiring Terasem. Breathing in the new energy and connections of everybody who's out here, and just like you and Derek, who very recently came, very similar paths, your interest of you started in the cryonics and looking at these things, and there you come to Terasem, and maybe you had heard about it out there before in the past, but we don't really proselytize. We don't do missionary work. So Terasem doesn't come to you. We are out there, we're producing a lot of things, be grants, being a 48, like this sort of stuff. But Terasem doesn't come to you. We're not going to knock on your door. It is really what you get to when you've done enough research and homework. Typically you're like, I'm gonna email these people. So it's great to see, and at that point of the people who get to the bottom of the rabbit hole and say, oh, this is what's down here. So I definitely encourage you to share those in our gatherings and in the Discord. So that being said, what do you believe Terasem to be and to stand for?
I'm still approaching it to a large extent with an open mind and exploration mode. Like I'm very curious about. I'm sure there are many things that I still don't know, and I'm very curious to learn them. But my current model of Terasem is people that are interested in preserving, digitally preserving some information about themselves, their personality, maybe their memories as well. I'm not less sure like on that front, but like preserving their personality and also I'm interested in some practices that we might associate with religion, or like some tradition, culture, rituals, things in that cluster. Yeah. I've also like I'm also not sure about this part of my model, but I have the impression that Terasem might members of Terasem might generally be into identifying less with their own self, and also identifying with other people, like I don't know. Maybe they would be more kind of into hive mind kind of thing, or maybe yeah, I don't know. And yeah, I'm also curious how much prescribed beliefs there are, which is the only part of religion that the main part of religion that I actually don't like in general. Although it makes sense to have some filters for like who you hang out with, but I wonder how many of those filters Terasem has. Yeah. Yeah, I'm also curious to like learn how many people are into chronics or other what's their the other things they're interested in. Yeah. But really, I'm really interested in like learning more about all the cultural elements that the Terasem has. Like I like what we're doing right now, for example. Or I really liked how the meeting was structured last time. Like it was really well structured. Um, and yeah, I like to meet more people that record their lives because I know, or in some ways, like they're interested in some ways into capturing digitally part of their mind, because I know very few people doing that, and it's interesting to connect on that level and also share like tips on what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's all great. And you know, particularly we'll come back to the prescribed beliefs and the community affiliation aspects. Those are two things I heard, you know, that you were saying in there, particularly around, you know, building this community of people who have shared lifestyle practices, right? And so as we move into this future world, you know, and mind filing and capturing becomes, you know, a lifestyle practice, right, that was not prescribed in ancient religion, because ancient religions could not foresee the future, right? Like they had all, you know, theologies, mythologies, rituals based on beliefs of the past, but you know, none of them really effectively foresaw the future. And so what Terasem is less about is really prescribed, you know, rituals. But if we are, you know, this is where we say God did not create us, God is technological. You know, we are manifesting what God is in what we do. You know, so, you know, what Terasem is about building, you know, a prescribed lifestyle for a, you know, ethical technological future, right? Something that we
I like
can,
that.
right?
I think
Yeah.
yeah, that's the role of religions. It's yeah, it's to create a strong culture that will propagate in the future with values that you want to spread in the future, and yeah, help a community collaborate, coordinate on some shared goals.
Yeah. So, you know, that is an essence of where Terasem is going, why it was founded, you know, what it's doing. But we call Terasem a trans religion, not just a religion, also for a specific reason, that you don't have to stop being Catholic or stop being Muslim in order to pursue Terasem. You know, it is an idea that encompasses all religion. And so Terasem would be less complete if we only had Christian theologians, you know, pursuing Terasem. In fact, the outcome of technology would be Christian technology, right? If it was only that. So in essence, having a big umbrella, you know, a trans religion, you know, is a better path, a more diverse path to an ethical application of technology.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. So as you've probably seen, you know, out there, what we would say, you know, the mantra of Terasem is that life is purposeful, death is optional, God is technological and love is essential. You know,
Yes, that seems pretty universal.
Yeah, in fact, you know, it does. It seems really simple, but when you particularly look at the two mid components, God is technological and death is optional. You know, in fact, traditional religion and you know, even the state to some degree, you know, has some real problems with that, particularly the notion that death might be optional. You know, for you know, I mean, to many religious people, it's almost mandatory. You know, they're so their religious theology is so staked in this good versus evil, you know, paradigm that opting out, you know, just isn't, you know, doesn't comply for them. And that's really a place where Terasem does not seek to discredit or to criticize other religious structures, but often a framework of discussing and opening up, you know, a conversation about the things that religion could not foresee, did not foresee, or left us conflicting guidance on how to move forward with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, excellent. Just very, very great to see, you know, the shared understanding with what you've gone through, which what you've chosen, what you found that, you know, you see again that this is where it's all, you know, heading as a direction. You need people, we need a community that encourages, that supports those who do this, right? Because at a certain point in time, we can see in the path, you know, people who looked up to the stars at night were burned at the cross, you know, because they were seeing things and speaking things that spoke out against, you know, the dogma of and you know, we have to have open conversations to, you know, to really accept different possibilities that are out there. Yeah, and so you've already, you know, attended. So let's move to, you know, the kind of the next question is what have you attended? How have you participated in Terasem? So that's again, you know, the specific events of Terasem that you participated, and then you know, again, I think expanding out of that, you said you've attended Young Cryonicist meetups, you know, and so any Terasem specific events and any events that you think, you know, are notable related to that.
You liked the bit, but you're asking what the Terasem and other related event could be cryonics that I attended?
Yeah, starting with any gatherings, the colloquium, what Terasem events have you participated, and then perhaps any other very similar along those lines that you want to mention.
I've only been to the monthly meeting, gathering from, I think, last week. It was my first Terasem event. I've not attended other events. And I'm very enmeshed with the cryonics community. So, yeah. So, yeah, I've been to the cryonics Teens and 20s gathering. And I don't know if I've attended other in-person like official events beside the ones organized in Quebec, but I traveled and visited a lot of cryonics labs and a lot of people. Yeah, but I've not attended other events.
Yeah, the 50th anniversary of Alcor is coming up in New York City. Are you planning on attending that?
No, I'm not gonna go.
Yeah, I don't think I'll make it either. It wasn't a good timing for me. What other than Alcor, what I'm curious, you know, what are your most impressive favorite cryonic facilities versus maybe the ones you are least confident in?
Well, Nectom is doing very good work. They're very promising, like up and coming new organization. Like they, a couple of years ago, they've like demonstrably preserved the connectome of pig and I think it was a rabbit, and they're now trying to. They have two challenges right now that they're working on, but they seem to be making good progress. One is translating this technology into human, and the other one is so it's a different biology, but also different laws, and that's also another complexity. So they have to adapt their protocol to the laws of different states, using medical aid in dying in the ways that they can. But they seem really promising, and yeah, I'm looking forward to see their tech being developed. I mean, I don't know if I want to say like the cryonics organizations I think are the least promising. I don't think people know about them. I think it's better if it stays that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Excellent. Yeah, that's very, very interesting. And are you, as a student or professionally, are you pursuing any work in cryonics?
I've been on the board of director of critical care research for the last 2+ years, and since July, well, from during the fall, like July to December, I was interim CEO because we parted ways with our previous team, and I was making sure the transition was going to go well, like figuring out what we were going to do moving forward, and helping renovate the facility. And right now, our plans are uncertain. I'm still this. There was a new team that. Well, yeah, I can't actually say more, right? But yeah, our plans are currently uncertain. And beside that, I'm also an advisor for Alcor, and I'm also a co-trustee for Stasis Foundation, which owns land in Texas and infrastructure with the goal of eventually being the largest place where to start chronic patients. Yeah, and otherwise I'm involved, and like as a super connector, I know a lot of people in the community, and I've helped people sign up for chronics.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. I have had some designs for a offshore maritime cryonics application, and so later on, as this all develops, certainly would like to share some of those ideas. With you, it seems like you've got a really good handle into that whole area. But yeah, we'll definitely share.
And one to mention is yeah. Oh, sorry, I missed what you just said. I liked it a little bit.
Oh yeah, no. So I was just saying that I've had these designs for this this use of maritime regulations and resources for cryonics and resources for cryonics.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna ask you more about this. What's the word you use? Maritime?
Yeah. So ocean-based.
Okay.
Water. Yeah. Naval. Yeah. Water.
Right.
Yeah, naval.
And what's the? So you're developing a cryonics project that will be maritime based. That's what you said, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if maybe we should not. I don't know if you want to go on that tangent now, but if not now,
no. Another time. Yeah. Certainly another time. But hearing how engaged you've been, particularly with cryonics, most of the people who get interested in Terasem have done the work and have maybe a cryonics package, for themselves. but it's a step beyond that to become so engaged that you're, advisor, trustee here and there. That's another level of interest and understanding beyond, hey, that sounds good for me. And
yeah,
I mean, but
and
also
one more thing I wanted to mention.
Yes.
By the way, I think we have a slight delay. That's why I interrupt you. Yeah, but I also have a blog called lessdead.com where I have some posts about chronics. That might be interesting.
Yeah, less dead.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, certainly.
I think it fits. I think it fits. I think the title fits with, like, I don't know, with what I see life logging as, because it's not going to be perfect. We're not going to record everything, but we're going to be less dead by preserving part of it. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. That's true. And just as everyone who has a heartbeat, isn't living, not everybody who has lost their heartbeat, necessarily will stop. Right.
And vice versa.
Yeah, vice versa. Yeah. And so, yeah, so much to learn and to experience. And again, so what actually I want to get back to is, just like, we say, life logging, is a lifestyle, is a ritual. And at a certain point, can or should develop, some religious level, rituality to it, right? That, like, the framework that we're born with, right? I mean, we're not born with it, but, like, we're all socialized into frameworks, whether they're, democratic or they're, Catholic or whatever. Like, we're all socialized into these frameworks that say certain things are important for certain reasons, right? And that is that, kind of prescribed aspect of religion. So Terasem is avoiding, like saying, God created the world, or God is a woman, and, like, that's not the conversation, like, for Terasem. That's the Buddhists, the Muslims, they can address some of these, other demographic, applications. Terasem is about building that community who supports and encourages and enables these things. So again, if we say we can cryonize a body, right? We can probably reanimate the body at this point. But is there a community of people who would? Is there a community of people that would accept you as human if you did? Right? That's what's very questionable. And that's where building this community around Terasem, is so important. Because right now it's hard to have these conversations with our own family, in many cases. Like, you might sign up, but your wife might object. And, Alcor particularly has to have an entire separate trust fund just to fight those, issues. And so, I mean, we're very early on, but this is an aspect of the affiliation, the community that develops around a shared, a shared understanding or desire for a shared lifestyle practices.
By the way, I'm curious, like, Terasem is a very young religion in terms of a religion age. Like, how much would you say that Terasem has matured, in the sense that its traditions and culture it probably won't evolve a lot in the future? Are you thinking it's still, like, evolving a lot and developing new traditions, modifying existing ones, etc.?
Yeah, so Terasem itself is evolving rapidly. Yes, it is very new as a religious, structure, out there. But what it does do, which is, again, something you don't really see in other religious structures, is that every 4 years we have a convocation, and the attendees come together, and they review the truths of Terasem, which include kind of all the prescribed practices that do exist, a lot of it is, really just, um, kind of statements that are there for consideration. They're not necessarily like, this is how you have to live your life, but like, this is a question, or this is a resource that you should, be considering along your path. We all have individual paths. And what Terasem believes is great is that there isn't one path to godliness, right? That like, we're all on a path, and that each of our paths is a critical part of the information, the fabric of a collective consciousness, which is, I want to take me back to something you said in the beginning, which was that there was this like, this observation of Terasem as being like more like this hive mind. And I think that's really important, because there's a criticism and there's really a threat of becoming lost in yourself, right? Lost in this individuality, when you're looking at all these things. And so remembering that each one of us is a unique part of a larger fabric, that we are all connected, in many ways. So in understanding and appreciation of natural ecology, of meditation, of mindfulness, all of these things are also woven into the fabric of Terasem, which is what allows us, to lead towards an ethical adoption of technology rather than a narcissistic, individualistic, antisocial, adaptation of technology.
Mm-hmm. You like that? I think I understood you.
Yeah. So we have the Terasem affirmation, and sorry, I'm not sure if that's me or you.
It's probably because I'm not here. But try again. Am I lagging for you?
Yeah, sorry. So I think I was lagging there and couldn't tell if you were talking or if it was me. So yeah, no, I think we went over all the core components. You have attended the Terasem events. You are familiar with the the gatherings and the principles. You've actually done some rather extensive work and are very engaged in a lot of the the rest of the network out here, from cryonics to the life logging. And so we then you meet all the credentials of doing the work. Terasem doesn't believe that Terasem needs Terasem in order for there to be Terasem, right? Terasem is only incorporated in the United States government. All these things are functional process matters. But we are transnational. We have people in Ukraine and Russia and Argentina and the United States and China, all over the world. And that those borders too, we see get smaller and less relevant as the world gets more connected, more aware, of each other. So if if you are willing, I'd like you to read the affirmation, and if you object, you can certainly elaborate as to why that pledge is objectionable and how.
I'm gonna read it and share out loud like my thoughts as I read it. Like
yeah, if you want me to read, would you like? Oh no, it's still in there in the chat. You still have it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, for me, telling like my word is very important to me. Like I place I value on saying the truth and respecting my word. So, and I also like want to be precise in my language, especially when it comes to pledges. And I'll tend to, and I can understand the value of not doing that, but that's how I operate in the world personally. And so like when I read, for example, and I quote, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the collective consciousness. Uh, I I don't know what that means, flag of collective consciousness. So I don't know what I would be saying. Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So in that part, just to clarify, what you see behind me, here is the Terasem flag, right? And what it stands for, down at the bottom, which you can't really see, is Morse code for joy. The stars up there that you do see, the circles, are the recognized centers of critical consciousness. The infinity symbol representing, unity, diversity, joyful immortality. And also, to go into the point that Terasem is a collective consciousness. It's not, an individual's ego's projection in there. But again, as you say, very much of Terasem has a degree of ambiguity that allows you to reflect rather than us to project a meaning.
I feel before, I don't think I've ever pledged allegiance to anything from my on top of my head. And I mean, if I did, I was probably young because yeah, as I would remember. I feel like I need to know the community more before doing that level of commitment, because that's not something I would do easily in general, and it's not at all it doesn't reflect anything about Terrorism. It just reflects about I personally operate in the world. Like I would say the same thing to any community. Like the principles, like have you mentioned, like yeah, there's already a major. It seems like there's a major overlaps, and I feel like there's like yeah, I already adhere to a lot of the principles for which you stand. It seems. I like what, like a small anecdotes. Like sometimes I'm thinking, okay, what could I tattoo on my body? And like I would only tattoo something on my body that I'm extremely confident that would be. Well, there are some exceptions, but I'm extremely confident that it would be permanent. And like the only thing I can think that seems permanent to me is my desire for immortality. So yeah, but I also really value being able to change my mind. Like yeah. But yeah, I mean, right now as it stands in this society, things like education, that's something I value. Unity, I would need to like unpack this word. Like I think to some extent I value me being a separate entity from others, but I also value increasing the level of connection from the statu quo towards with other minds. Diversity will depend on which axis. So like I would want to expand like what we mean by diversity, but some form of diversity seems good. Like I probably wouldn't want to just live with mind clones of myself. Yeah, that's and joyful. I guess yeah. I don't. Joy is not the highest value for me, but for my own self, I do value it in some ways, and what I value is helping people fulfill their own preferences, whatever those are. More, although I do place more value on preferences that are more human-like or more similar to my own. So that's what comes up for me when I read the pledge. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I mean, growing up as an American, you are indoctrinated with the pledge in school. And, I imagine maybe Canada, Quebec have some versions of that, but,
I don't remember that. Yeah.
yeah, I know, but yeah, I mean, it's rare. I mean, typically there are the things you do for children, right? Because you are indoctrinating children, you're socializing them into your customs. I have a few kids. My oldest daughter, Asada, who's now almost 18, she was the youngest, to join Terasem. And, I've seen a little bit of that. Most people, it's actually very interesting. Most people, are very much like yourself. They're actually we're not getting the Church of Perpetual Life. They seem to get this older population, right? And I don't know if maybe it's just you didn't necessarily you didn't know anything about me coming to Terasem, so my demographics couldn't have influenced you. However, most people coming to Terasem are between like 20 and 50. It's like I'm not seeing kids, I'm not seeing older people. Like it's like, it's like younger people, professionals who are the ones coming in. So it's interesting to, just to notice that aspect of it. But likewise for me, I mean, the pledge, even the Pledge of Allegiance, I never felt comfortable saying. And so even in school, and even now, I mean, I go to a professional function, I go to the Chamber of Commerce, and they'll stand, they want you to say the pledge in a lot of places. So, yeah, I mean, so what I do is I audibly, and I mean, not just under my breath, but when we say, I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under law. We're supposed to say under God, which is, a problem in itself. And, I mean, I have many other things calling allegiance to the state and whatnot, but I've changed that, and I say under law, and I say it loud enough for everyone else at the table to hear me instead of saying under God. So I certainly understand, those aspects. And I did this with a Cuban, actually. And, you can imagine, as a Cuban national, the, concerns that he had around saying a pledge, because a religion is like basically legal in Cuba. So it is understandable. And as we move through this and we go through this process, I do plan to advocate that we update what is prescribed in Terasem, and say that instead of a pledge of allegiance, we do an affirmation of action, right? Because again, religion is about taking your ideas, your of the world, and putting them into action, right? Like the whole process is like, well, what do you think the world is? Like, what do you think the world should be? How do we get there? All right, let's build a framework, let's build a community, like, in order to, to do that. So what we're doing right now is literally a prescribed process. The Truths of Terasem says that, like, when someone reaches a certain level of knowledge and experience, which is typically, you being like, hey, what is this thing about? Like, then we say, all right, come to a meeting, let's do this like video, and we'll go through these things. But as you can see, some of these things aren't necessarily the best practice, right? But every time someone like you comes through that and you question the practice, and we go back and we're like, hey, right, maybe we can do this better. In 2 years, when we have the convocation, I hope you're there to say, hey, this is a better way to attract people, to encourage people to, to do all these things. Because, at the end of the day, I mean, Terasem has been here about 15, 20 years as an organization. But it's very slow exponential growth, right? It's just like, it takes 5 years just to like print the Truths of Terasem, and then like another 5 years to like, get people like regularly attending gatherings, and so it's it's there. But what's been amazing is in the last 2-3 years, how many people like yourself are coming forward and saying, all right, this matters to me, I'm doing something with this. Like that's where you start getting like much more momentum, and all that. And the real value, I think, of recording this, of doing this, of taking these steps, because we are creating something that lives beyond the moment.
I very much like what you said.
Yeah, thank you.
I like your openness to like evolving Terasem.
Yeah, and that's that's another thing. I mean, like, having seen a lot of religions, religion is so sure of itself, right? Like, it's always so sure of itself. Like, it can't be wrong. It can't be wrong. We're literally making this up as we go along, and that's I think the most honest thing anyone can ever say, right? Like, so yeah, we don't honestly know why we're here. We don't honestly know how the universe was created, if it's going on forever. We just know that we are here. We know that we can measure these things. We know that death doesn't have to happen, right? And so let's find a way to keep the things going. And that's that's really what it's all about. So again, I thank you for your time. I welcome you into the collective consciousness of Terasem. When we are in person, we do have a greeting, which is typically where we would touch foreheads together, and we would say, "I am you, you am I, we are one," and that's the greeting. So welcome, Mari, to Terasem.
Thank you.
Anything else you would like to share before I stop the recording?
Thank you for taking the time of doing this interview and welcoming me in the community, and for everything that you built around that. Yeah, I value this. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Terasem has been inspired by you. Thank you for doing this.